I do love the idea of Rex kind of emphasizing that you need to lean on more than just the Force. First of all, because I've always loved that idea. I loved that in Star Wars. I loved that in Harry Potter. And I feel like there's other things I've loved that in. But it's a great idea. In other words, you don't want to use the Force too much. Use it as a crutch and let your other skills atrophy. The idea being that if you use your, shall we say, more mundane skills in conjunction with the Force, you have a more perfect whole. Which to me kind of perfectly fits the Force in general, and of course, Star Wars in specific. I also tend to agree with Rex's comment that Kanan lacks discipline. I mean, that's probably on purpose. This is just probably me reading too much into it, but given everything that Kanan went through, he's probably tried to distance himself as far as possible from, the strict regime of the Jedi Order and the strict military code of the clone army and blah, 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 blah. There's a reason why I mentioned earlier that Hera is the one who's the rebel, the one who's actually the soldier, I should be more clear. And Kanan, he's the one who's the smuggler, basically. He's the Han Solo type here. Anywho, I had a random thought I just wanted to share with you guys. Have you ever played a game like Stellaris, or I suppose Master of Orion does this too, Star Control, had this kind of thing? A lot of space games have this thing where you find these abandoned facilities or ancient wonders and all this ancient eldritch tech from precursor times and blah, blah, blah. Almost all of science fiction does this. But what I find interesting is Star Wars does it too, but not in the way that I would normally presume. And it actually makes perfect sense. Star Wars is a setting that is so... I don't know how to... Their infrastructure and tech levels are through the roof, but not to the point of being like reality shapers, like the precursors in Halo, for example, but more along the lines of the fact that, we have a war going on, so we're going to establish bases everywhere, and then as soon as the war's over, we'll abandon them. So there's just stuff everywhere that you can go find. It's just an interesting concept, and it helps to explain why so much of the underbelly of the galaxy manages to manage the way it does. Because there's so much refuse left over by the massive galactic level powers. Anyways. I also wanted to comment on this. I thought about this back in episode 1. Season 1. But this has really started coming forward. Sabine has her own little emblem. It's this bird thing going up. And it's the emblem of the Rebel Alliance. Now, I'm pretty sure this is leaning towards the Rebel Alliance emblem being based on that, which at this point I believe is the 4th or possibly 5th explanation we've had for where that emblem comes from. I just thought I'd comment on that, because this is one of those things that Star Wars fans have been used to since, the 90s at this point, where another game or another show or another book will come up with another explanation for something from the movies, right? I mean, how many versions of the Bothans dying for the Death Star plans were there back in the EU, to name one example? Anyways. So, random thought. How unified are the Inquisitors? They act like they're kind of in competition with each other, which would make sense for a, let's call it what it is, Sith mentality. That they are more competitors than they are part of a team. Now that's an interesting idea, and could also help to explain why it is that the rebels will be able to do anything with them or against them, because functionally speaking, the Inquisitors outrank them, or outweigh them, I should say, in terms of raw personal power, and of course in terms of what they're capable of doing and how much weight they could bring to bear at any given time with regards to the Imperial military. So this might even be a thing that helps to form a narrative thematic device where the rebels have to unify and the Inquisitors don't. We'll see. I know there's going to be more Inquisitors down the line. We'll see. But the introduction of, I think it's Seventh Sister? I don't remember their names. But, Sarah Michelle Gellar, I think, is the one who voices this one, along with, the 5th brother who's already been here. Okay, sure. I'm not against them. I'm just like, okay, your characters. In the Inquisitor, the original Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor, was just a character at first, so we'll see. How the heck did the sister even know they'd be there, though? Like, by all accounts, she was there before they were. Did she just guess? Did they, spread out to the galaxy? I don't know. Whatever. So, we also see the escalation of threats here. Now, I mentioned this earlier. One Inquisitor was something they could barely deal with. And that took a combined effort. Now we're facing 2 Inquisitors, but That makes sense. You can't just keep fighting the same scale of threat, especially while you yourself are getting stronger. Their teamwork is getting better. Their ability to think around a problem is getting better. Ezra's getting stronger on the Force, and Kanan's getting stronger on the Force. So it makes sense that they would have a staircase escalation of threats. So we'll see if this continues to be suitably threatening. You'll notice, by the way, in this episode, the goal was not to defeat the two Inquisitors. It was just to escape them. Funny little side note here. The female Inquisitor, the sister, actually pricks at his fear first, which does nothing. I just thought that was a nice touch, because of course it does nothing. He's been living under the oppression of the Galactic Empire for how many years? That's their go-to tactic, is fear and bullying. He's very used to that. So he just responds the way he always does, with some kind of witty comeback. It is when she pricks his pride that she actually convinces him to talk. I don't think he even realized that he was actually responding to her in a way that she wanted him to. Then Commander Melurun calls in, and I have to admit, that actually made me laugh. Not only is it a nice callback, but it's a great, oh, okay, yeah, it's him. Gotcha. That was good. Loving the continuity of this show so far. Really, I am. We'll see where this goes next time.